Welcome back, my kings and queens. And this topic right here, I will say, is one of the founding pillars, principles of this self mastery program. And that is understanding how everything is interconnected. Our mental health is connected to our physical and is connected eventually to our spirit. And we're going to get deep into that once we get into the third course that we are going to meet up in very soon. And this course is going to get into the alchemical practices that we are going to get deeply involved with when we want to learn how to work with our energy. But until that point, we want to make sure that we get these basics out in the open for everyone to understand. So when we're thinking about something like anxiety, I always ask the question, what came first? Did the anxiety come first, or did pain come first? If we're talking about injury, right? When we're thinking about rehabilitation, I ask you that question. What comes first for someone? Does the anxiety from getting injured happen first, or does an individual who suffers from chronic anxiety predispose themselves and their bodies to the potential for chronic pain? Now, this is important because if you ask the average individual, if you would have asked me this question 10, 15 years ago, I probably would have given you a different answer. The reality of it is that science is telling us more and more that individuals that walk around with poorly regulated stress management systems actually predispose themselves to injury. And you could see this all the time with people. And it generally starts out with the posture of individuals. And as a licensed physical therapist who's been in practice for over 20 years, like, I will tell you that the way someone who has a tremendous amount of unchecked anxiety in their system has a particular posture that they present with. And this posture, more often than not, is a posture that this individual wants to try to hide. I want to hide. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be heard. There's a lot of fear in an individual that has lots of anxiety. And you will see the rounded shoulders in these individuals. You will see a head that's forward flexed, poking forward. Okay, you will see someone who might be a little hunched. These are all postures that impact the body, the physical body, in a way that cuts off circulation to certain parts of your body. It impairs your breathing. So remember the normal expansion and constriction of the lungs that's very necessary. It becomes inhibited because our posture is very flexed forward. So it's very difficult to take deep breaths. When you have a difficult time taking a deep breath, then you have a difficult time self-regulating yourself. Whenever we take nice, long, full, deep breaths, what we're able to do is stimulate our vagus nerve, okay? That exits, it's a cranial nerve that exits our brain, comes down our brain stem, and on both sides of our body, descends all the way down into our pelvic area. And it's the job of this nerve to help bring us into this parasympathetic nervous system, which is the opposite of the high stress cortisol sympathetic nervous system that is just looking to keep us in this fight or flight state. So the deep breaths bring us into a much more calm state. Okay, so very important to use that breath not just to calm our minds, but to calm our body and to bring the inflammation levels down. Okay, so very important people who have these postures, and it's very similar to people that sit for long periods of time. You will see very similar neck issues coming into the upper traps. You will see people in their cervical column back here develop things like spinal stenosis, okay, a cervical stenosis, where you will see impingement, you will feel impingement, you will get the radiating pains coming down the neck into the shoulders and maybe even down the arms that over time may lead to things like compression, where you might have weakness in some of the muscles in your arms. So it's very important to be able to do what we can to open ourselves up, right? So to be able to integrate our stress management program that includes things like meditation, which in part two, our next course, we're going to get into the application of meditation, and you're going to learn the basic fundamentals of meditation, and you're going to be able to start your meditation routine and also your breathwork routine. And you'll see how those two tools, when you use them together at the right moments, will help to bring your stress levels down and help reduce the amount of physical stress that's happening to your body. When we look at very specific centers in our body, like let's say our heart, obviously one of the most important parts of our body. For people that have a lot of anxiety, you might feel the heart palpitations happening at the heart. You've got the thymus gland that sits right over the heart, and this is what regulates your heart rate. So when that gland, that endocrine gland is overstimulated, it will lead you into heart palpitations. Now, when we try to connect to our spirit, when we try to connect to our energy system, our chakra system, we notice that we've got 7 chakras that descend from the top of our crown all the way down to the root of our body, okay, which is down by our tailbone. The heart chakra overlaps the endocrine gland, the thymus gland. And that overlaps, that is in the same, obviously in the same ballpark as the heart. So right there, you see the overlap of our 3 systems. Okay, our physical system, we see the heart, we see the gland, right, which impacts us, our mental, and then we have the energetic connection to our heart chakra all lined up. And if we look down all of the different centers of our body when we're looking at the chakra system, they all overlap important endocrine glands. So even if we travel down to our solar plexus, which is our stomach area, okay, our stomach energy center, that is directly in line with our adrenal glands. Now, when we talk about cortisol levels, okay, we talk about the adrenal glands that are releasing cortisol, right? And this just so happens to be right in line with our kidneys, right? So you've got all of these structures that are overlapping one another. So for us to turn around and say that some trauma that you felt only impacts one part of your being is silly, right? Because we've got all of these things overlapping. And this is how human beings operate. This is what drove me away from just being a physical therapist. This is what drove me away from just working with ordinary fitness. It's impossible to reduce human beings down to just the physical. There's so many added elements, and this is where we go from just being very primitive in our mindset around the superficialness of the physical and start to learn how to embrace all of these other concepts that focus on our mental being and focus on our energetic or spiritual being. I understand some people are uncomfortable using the term spirituality, and you know what? That's okay. We have energy systems. To me, I think I'm a science guy just as much as I am a spiritual guy. So I'll tell you that sometimes it's a lot easier for me to use energy systems because this is stuff that's been written for thousands of years. If you look out far east in Chinese, traditional Chinese medicine, we've been talking about qi for millennia, much, much longer than our Western system. So I encourage you to learn more about that system. And we're going to get into that a little bit deeper again in the second section in our second course, where we start to deal with the application of all of these concepts. Like, how do we use this in a practical aspect? How do I learn how to get my hands dirty with these things so that way I could begin the process of changing my body internally and on the outside as well? Because we still want those fitness goals. All right, as superficial as it might sound, I want to look good. I want to age in reverse, right? I want to feel great, but I understand now at this point in my career that I have to check all of these boxes in order for this to happen. So we need to be able to open our minds up to the point where we could take in all of this new information and understand that it's not going to happen overnight. And even if we do feel a bit overwhelmed, and this is going to take you outside of your comfort zone, just for you to remember that you're not by yourself. You are not alone in this. I am here. You will have a community of individuals that you can communicate with so that way you know you're not going through this by yourself. When I was going through this, there was nobody there to help me. I had I had to go through all of this by myself. I had support systems, but they were very limited in their capacity. So I am trying to do better for you than what was done for me. You know, and I listen. I love what I had to go through. I probably wouldn't have the courage to be here out in front of you had I not gone through the trials and tribulations that I did. But if I can make your life a little bit easier, if I could prepare you better than what I had for me, then I'm going to take that opportunity to do so. Okay. So after this video, I want you to ask yourself these very simple questions. I want you to think about your mental health. I want you to think about any chronic pains that you have. I want you to think about the shape of your body right now. I want you to think about how that makes you feel. I want you to see if you could sit and feel the connection between your mind and your body. This is going to help you in a great way when we get to our next section, when we're dealing with actually sitting down and learning how to meditate. Okay, so take the information from that last video where we got into checking in and that self inventory, and I really want you to start connecting the dots between the emotions that you're feeling in your body and exactly where you're feeling those emotions in your body. Right? If you're high anxiety, where do you feel that anxiety most? Do you feel that in your chest? Do you notice your heart palpitations? Do you notice the tension in your neck when you're thinking about it? How does that impact your posture? Is your shoulders flexed upward like that because you're just stressed and you don't know where else to put that energy? Very important stuff for you to start dealing with, experimenting with, and asking yourself some important questions. Love you very much, and I will get back to you soon.